Hey, ever feel like something just doesn't add up in the way women behave? You're not imagining it. There are hidden truths about female psychology that most men never hear. Not in school, not from their fathers, not even from their friends. But once you understand how these unspoken dynamics work, it's like the whole game changes. Fast. If you've ever been blindsided by mixed signals, ghosting, or felt like you're stuck in an emotional loop you can't explain, then this might be the missing piece. What you're about to learn isn't just knowledge, it's leverage. Without it, you're just guessing. And guessing in today's world, that's a losing strategy. If this kind of insight helps you as much as it's helped other men I've mentored, consider giving it a like, drop a comment, or share it with someone who needs this clarity. It makes a difference, because before you can decode her actions, you need to understand the first layer of what's really driving them. What no one ever told you about the female mindset. Let's start with this. Most men are walking into relationships like it's a fair game. Equal rules, equal expectations, same emotional language. That's the first trap. Because what's happening behind the surface of female desire often looks nothing like what's being said out loud. It's quiet, subtle, layered. And if you're not paying attention, it slips right past your guard. Ever feel like she says one thing but acts another? That disconnect isn't an accident. It's built into female nature, and understanding that changes everything. There's a reason why so many men feel blindsided. Like things were going great, then out of nowhere, it's cold, distant, gone. This isn't just about modern dating. It's deeper, rooted in psychological triggers you weren't taught to see. We're talking about things like emotional manipulation, emotional testing, and unspoken shifts in relationship control. And no, this isn't a rant. This is the toolkit nobody handed you. Once you see how these layers work together, you'll stop reacting and start moving with quiet control. She doesn't even have to mean to manipulate. That's the catch. Much of this is subconscious, running on autopilot. That's what makes it powerful and dangerous. When a woman tests you emotionally, it's rarely announced. It's in her tone, her distance, her timing. It's why so many men fail silently. If you can't decode subconscious attraction patterns or identify red flags, you're just hoping for the best. And hope isn't a strategy. You need male awareness, and that starts with learning how to see what's usually invisible. Imagine a guy who thinks just being nice will win her loyalty. He texts good morning, compliments her constantly, does everything right. But she's pulling away. Why? Because he's feeding the validation addiction and losing all tension in the process. See, comfort feels safe, but tension creates desire, and desire doesn't respond to logic. It responds to instinct, tension, and polarity. That's why understanding her sexual strategy, even if she's unaware of it herself, is the difference between keeping her interest or being her emotional support pet. Let's visualize it. You're on a date. She leans in, laughs, touches your arm, then suddenly shifts, goes quiet, checks her phone. You feel a dip in the vibe, but you don't say anything. That moment, that's emotional leverage in action. She's testing your center. She wants to know if you'll chase or hold frame, and if you chase, she pulls further. If you stand firm, she feels something deeper. Respect. That's the hidden battlefield most men never see, but now you will. Here's the part no one tells you. Truth suppression isn't always a lie. Sometimes it's silence. Most women won't explain what they really want because they don't want to kill the game. They want to feel it. They want you to just know. That's why words rarely reveal the real dynamic. You've got to read behavior, timing, and nuance. That's where psychological decoding becomes a superpower. Not to control her, but to stop being controlled by confusion, projection, and unmet fantasy. Think about how many men get trapped in one-sided efforts. They initiate, they plan, they pursue, while she stays emotionally detached. It's not random, it's not just bad luck. It's structure, built on how hypergamy silently governs her standards. Women are biologically wired to seek upward momentum, whether emotionally, socially, or sexually. If you're not aware of how that shows up in behavior, you'll misread her interest. You'll think she's shy or busy, when in reality, you've already failed her feminine power test and didn't even know it. You've probably heard the phrase, nice guys finish last. It's not just a cliche, it's a misunderstood signal. What most nice guys are missing is tension, polarity, edge. Without those, she doesn't feel the emotional roller coaster her psyche craves. That's why so many of them fall victim to emotional games without even knowing they're playing. They keep showing up, keep giving more, thinking it'll turn the tide, but what she's actually responding to is mystery, challenge, and masculine frame. That's where desire lives. Let's go deeper. There's a reason she craves intensity but flees stability. It's not sabotage, it's programming. Many women operate from a place of unspoken patterns learned early in life. Attachment styles, attention conditioning, unresolved wounds. That's why she might sabotage a good man while obsessing over the one who gives her mixed signals. Without knowing it, she's addicted to emotional spikes. And unless you understand the attention economy she's living in, you'll misinterpret her chaos as personal rejection. Here's something to sit with. Her attraction is rarely verbal. You won't hear "I want you" directly. Instead, you'll see it in small flickers. Eye contact that lingers too long. Inconsistent replies that draw you in. Sudden silence after intimacy. That's subconscious attraction communicating under the radar. But here's the catch. If you don't mirror her mystery with grounded presence, she'll lose interest. Fast. Because it's not just about being attractive, it's about knowing how to hold her emotional testing without flinching. And this is where the emotional bait begins. She'll start pulling back not to reject you, but to feel your reaction. That's her measure. Will you become needy? Will you try harder? Or will you remain centered? That's why understanding emotional manipulation doesn't mean resenting it. It means recognizing it as a pattern. If she can shift your emotions easily, she knows you're emotionally exposed. But if you respond with clarity instead of reaction, she feels your depth. That's magnetic. Let me tell you about a guy named Marcus. Smart, well-spoken, generous to a fault. He fell for a woman who constantly pulled him into highs and lows. She'd flirt, vanish, then resurface like nothing happened. He thought persistence would win her. Instead, he drowned in confusion. Only when he stepped back and studied female nature, understanding her hidden motives and reclaiming his male awareness, did things shift. He stopped chasing. She started noticing. The power dynamic reversed, effortlessly. See, Marcus realized he had been operating from assumptions, not observation. Once he understood dating dynamics from her perspective, not what she said, but what she showed, he stopped making emotional decisions. He started tracking her rhythms, holding space when she pushed and walking away when her actions misaligned. That shift in relationship control didn't require manipulation, just presence. And women feel that. They may not describe it, but they'll respond to it. That's what rewrites the script. And this isn't about games, let's be clear. It's about waking up from the illusion that you're both playing the same game with the same rules. You're not. Women are navigating both their internal world and external attention at all times. And unless you can see where you fit, or don't, you're setting yourself up for silent failure. That's why decoding these truth suppression mechanisms matters. It's not bitterness, it's clarity. And clarity is the first step to freedom. Let's strip the mask off. Many men get into relationships thinking love is a reward for being good enough. They give affection, loyalty, gifts, hoping she'll love them back. But that's not how female desire works. Desire isn't logical, it's primal, and it responds to strength, not sacrifice. If your energy is begging for approval, she senses it. That's when the shift begins, where your value drops and hers rises. That silent exchange is the breeding ground of emotional detachment, and you won't even realize it until it's too late. And here, a quick pause, because if this is already shaking your beliefs or exposing patterns you've been blind to, don't scroll past this moment. This is exactly the kind of truth that gets buried in noise. So if this content is hitting you where it matters, showing you angles you never thought about, then do something simple, but important. Hit that like button, subscribe now, and stay with us, because the next layer goes even deeper, and trust me, you're going to want that clarity before your next move. Let's talk about a pattern you've probably felt but couldn't name. You're dating someone new, things are flowing, she's into you. Then suddenly she becomes distant, short texts, delayed replies, subtle coldness. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong? But it's not about logic, it's about the emotional thermostat. This is often emotional testing disguised as disinterest. She's checking your frame. If you chase too soon, she'll see weakness. If you disappear completely, she'll sense immaturity. But if you stay grounded, that's where seduction tactics truly begin to work. Attraction doesn't grow in comfort. It thrives in contrast. The fire she feels isn't from reassurance, it's from unpredictability. Not chaos, but emotional polarity. That's why the guy who says, "I'll do anything for you," often ends up alone, while the one who holds his center becomes unforgettable. Because he's not playing for approval. He's tuned into psychological triggers, not surface-level drama. And that energy? It speaks louder than any compliment or text. That's the difference between attraction and fascination. Now imagine this. Two men message her. One asks, "Did I do something wrong?" The other says, "You seem different. Let me know when you're ready to be real again." Guess who she keeps thinking about? The second man isn't rude. He's calibrated. He understands the pulse of dating dynamics and leads with grounded calm, not panic. That's what makes him unforgettable. Not because he's perfect, but because he refuses to drown in her emotional ocean. That's masculine frame at work. So many men were never taught this, and it shows. They confuse silence with failure, distance with rejection. But sometimes her silence is just her own chaos, and your reaction determines what happens next. If you're easily shaken, she'll see instability. If you stay calm, she'll feel safe. That paradox is where female nature reveals itself. She doesn't want to destroy your center. She wants to feel it. That's what she tests. And if you fail silently, she won't tell you. You'll just fade from her world. And this is exactly where unspoken patterns hold the most power. Because once she sees you as emotionally reactive, the frame is broken. She may stay physically, but mentally, she's already scanning for something stronger. That's why so many men experience that slow fade. It's not random, it's the emotional consequence of losing relationship control without knowing it. But here's the thing, you don't need to dominate to lead, you just need to be conscious. And that starts with awareness of the signals most ignore. It's wild how fast things shift when you start seeing what's really happening. Suddenly, those confusing moments make sense. That cold tone after intimacy, emotional leverage, that dramatic pause during arguments, psychological triggers, that compliment followed by a passive jab. Classic emotional manipulation. And once you stop taking these things personally, you stop reacting emotionally, and start responding strategically. That shift doesn't just change the relationship, it transforms you. You move from reactive to composed, from confused to clear. Clarity is power, especially when you're dealing with something as complex and layered as female desire, because here's the truth. She doesn't want you to ask what she needs. She wants you to sense it, and that's not fair, but it's real. This is why emotionally unaware men get replaced by the ones who lead without hesitation, who don't need step-by-step instructions. And no, you don't need to be a mind reader. You need to be observant, attuned, in sync with her rhythm, not just her words. Let's not sugarcoat this. Women live in a world where they're constantly pursued. DMs, compliments, offers. Attention is everywhere. So what separates you from the noise? Presence? Intentionality? The refusal to pedestalize her? That's how you rise above the attention economy. If she senses that you're begging for her focus, she loses interest, fast. But if you're the one who chooses, who filters, evaluates, and values your energy, she'll notice. Because most men never question her, and the man who does becomes unforgettable. Here's a powerful visual. Imagine you're standing in a crowded room. She looks around and sees 100 men wanting something from her. But then, she sees you. You're not reaching, not waiting. You're just there, observing, choosing, centered. That alone is disruptive. Because it tells her you're not here for approval. You're here on your own terms. The contrast awakens something ancient in her. It pierces through the noise. That's the essence of seduction tactics when rooted in awareness, not desperation. Most men try to impress, but high-value men don't chase validation. They understand validation addiction from the outside. They see how women feed on it through social media, male attention, even subtle power plays. And they don't resent it. They just don't play into it. That's why when a man doesn't instantly fold to a woman's charm, it throws her off. It intrigues her. Because he's not trying to win her. He's already whole. And wholeness, that's rare currency in a fractured world. You'll know you're growing when you stop fearing rejection and start being selective. When her pulling away doesn't shake you but informs you, that's when male vulnerability becomes a choice, not a leak. You choose when to open up. You choose when to share. And that power of choice makes your presence magnetic. Women don't want a robot. They want a man who feels but doesn't collapse, who loves deeply but never begs. That's emotional mastery, and yes, it's learnable. Here's where things shift even further. Once you stop reacting to emotional games, you force a new script. She can no longer pull you into drama loops or power struggles. You don't get hooked by her silence. You don't chase her mood swings. And over time, she starts to self-regulate around you. That's when she feels safe, seen, and more importantly, led. Because leadership in relationships isn't about dominance. It's about direction, calm, stability, the kind of presence she didn't know she was craving. There's a strange irony here. The more grounded you are, the more chaotic she may become at first. Why? Because most women aren't used to it. They're used to shifting the dynamic with subtle behaviors. But when she tests and nothing shakes you, that's disruptive. It breaks the loop of control. And in that moment, her respect grows. Not because you're cold, but because your value isn't negotiable. That's how you move from a place of truth suppression to full spectrum psychological decoding. You don't need to call her out. You don't need to teach her a lesson. You just need to observe and act from alignment. That's the mark of a man who understands hidden motives, not to manipulate, but to self-protect. Not every connection deserves your depth. Not every woman is ready for it. And the moment you realize that, you stop over-investing. You stop proving yourself. And in that stillness, she feels something rare. A man who chooses wisely. One of the most overlooked superpowers in the masculine journey is silence. Not passive silence, but potent stillness. The kind of presence that listens without reacting, that watches without needing to fix. In a world that's constantly loud, silence is power. It disarms her emotional testing and resets the dynamic. Because when a woman is met with a man who isn't phased, her instincts recalibrate. That's when real trust can be built, not from control, but from conscious contrast. And that's what this all comes down to. Contrast between her chaos and your calm, her emotion and your presence, her tests and your awareness. That polarity is where intimacy lives. Not in forced communication, but in unspoken understanding. That's how you earn feminine power without begging for it. Not through effort, but through presence. Not through strategy alone, but by embodying the energy that makes her feel safe and alive. You'll start to notice small shifts. Her voice softens. Her tone changes. She initiates more. She follows your rhythm. Not because she's submissive, but because she finally feels led. Not dominated, held. That's when emotional detachment becomes intimacy. That's when your masculine stillness becomes the space where she can truly exhale. And when that happens, everything changes. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never get tested again. You will. That's the nature of feminine energy. It seeks strength to feel secure. But now, you'll welcome the test. You'll recognize it, smile at it, hold your ground without needing to defend it. And in doing so, you'll shift from being at the mercy of emotional games to being the architect of emotional leadership. That's where lasting attraction begins, not with control, but with earned polarity. And the best part? This isn't about pretending. It's about remembering. Remembering that you were never meant to chase approval. You were meant to embody direction. That your value doesn't increase through effort, but through presence. That leadership in love isn't loud. It's stable. That once you understand female nature, you stop fearing it and start dancing with it. You don't just survive the game, you rise above it. And in that altitude, only the real ones can meet you. So now the question is, what are you going to do with this? You've just unpacked layers of truth that most men never even scratch the surface of. You've seen what's usually hidden, decoded what most ignore, and hopefully recognized a piece of yourself in all of it. But knowledge alone doesn't shift the dynamic. Application does. Are you willing to observe more and react less? Can you hold your center when the test comes instead of chasing the illusion? Are you ready to stop asking for love and start commanding respect? Because here's the truth. Every time you allow emotional manipulation to go unchecked, every time you lose your masculine frame, you're training her how to treat you. But when you flip the script, when you embody direction, clarity, presence, everything changes. The energy shifts, the attraction deepens. You become the one she can't explain but can't ignore either. Drop this in the comments. I choose clarity over confusion. Let's see how many of us are walking this path with awareness now. Thank you, truly, for staying with me through this. It means you're serious about becoming the kind of man who leads with depth, not desperation. If this resonated with you, help someone else find it too. Like the video, share it with a brother, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications because we're just getting started.